Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another drugstore versus high-end comparison video, and so today I'm going to be comparing beauty blenders. I've been using this one. This is the Real Techniques complexion sponge. I think that's what it's called. What is it? Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. Yeah, this one I've been using for months now and I really liked it, but I've always kind of wanted to try the beauty blender, but I was always so like anti-beauty blender just because how expensive it is. Like, geez. I was actually kind of hesitant at filming this video today just because how crappy my skin is and looks, and it's breaking out so badly, but I thought it might be kind of good to test out them now because then we could see how well the sponges cover blemishes, cover scars, cover like elevated pimples. Is this beauty blender really worth the money, or can you get away with just using a little dupe? I both use these beauty blenders damp, but for right now they are dry, so this is about the size comparison. So these are them dampened. So when I dampen them, I pretty much douse them underneath the tap, I wring them out, and then I use a towel to kind of dry them even more because you want them nice and spongy, but you don't want them dripping wet. So the Real Techniques, I'm pretty sure, is $9.99, and then in Canada these beauty blenders go for $28, I believe. So that is pretty expensive for a little cosmetic sponge. But yeah, that is too damn high. But I wanted to show you guys the comparison, and then you guys can make the decision yourself if you want to save the money or kind of step up your beauty game and test out the beauty blender. So let's get started. I'm going to use the beauty blender on my right side of the face, and then I'll use the Real Techniques on my left side. I already washed my face. I used the Makeup Forever Step 1 Skin Equalizer for my primer. For foundation, I'm going to use Maybelline's Matte and Poreless Fit Me Foundation. This one is for normal to oily skin, and this is in 230 Natural Buff. Okay, so let's do the, oh my god. My skin is so bad. It looks so gross. No judging, please. So I'm just gonna take the foundation on the back of my hand and then just kind of dab it everywhere, and then I'll blend it out. I also never do my eyebrows before I do foundation. Like, how do people like not touch their eyebrows when they put on foundation? Okay, so I'm working on the left side of my face now with the Real Techniques beauty sponge. What I like about this sponge is this flat surface. Some people don't like it, but I think it makes things like so much easier. And then I flip it around and use the tip for the concealer. I don't know, I've been using this Real Techniques sponge for such a long time. Loved it for so long. Also because I've never compared it to any other good sponge before. I can see a slight difference between them. I feel like this foundation did nothing, so I'm gonna do a little bit more. Round 2! Okay, so beauty blender, right side of the face. What I like about the beauty blender is it's so squishy. It just forms to your face, so you don't get like those stamp marks from some sponges. I do find that the beauty blender does a really good job at pressing the foundation and the concealer into the skin. So I do notice on my nose right now with the Real Techniques is that even though I was dabbing, even though I was pressing the sponge into my skin, I still do notice some streak marks. And then for this side, oh my god, my skin is just so bad right now. I feel like the Real Techniques sponge did a good job at covering the elevated pimples, but there are some spots that it looks like it has more coverage around it except for the very top. So they are still very, very noticeable. Same with this one, but I feel like sometimes those are just unavoidable. The beauty blender did a better job at covering it. You can still see the tip of it, but I would say that the Beauty Blender did do a better job at covering elevated pimples. As for scars, they did both a very good job. I kind of find that this side looks more concealed than this one does, possibly because of the flat top. As for coverage, both did a really good job. Now for nose, for right in the creases of my nose, I find that the Beauty Blender did a better job at getting in there than this flat one. It kind of makes sense. I should have flipped it over and used the rounded edges for getting into these creases, but I do notice that right in the crease there is a lot more redness and less coverage, whereas this side is a lot more covered in the crease. Let's go ahead and do concealer. So for concealer, I am going to use the Naked Skin by Urban Decay. This one is in medium light neutral. So I'll just do it the normal way I do concealer. So for blending out, I thought that it did a pretty good job for foundation, but same thing with concealer. The Beauty Blender does do a better job at pressing it into the skin, but I do find that this one still does a good job at blending. It looks like it's almost sitting on top as compared to making it look like more natural and pressed into the skin. For under the eye, yeah, for under the eye, once again, the Beauty Blender is more well blended out. I wonder what it is. I cut it! There's a slit! How did I do that? Did I use my nail? So now I'm going to use a loose powder and I'm going to set my face using those Beauty Blenders. So for that, I'm going to use the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder. Beauty Blender with some powder. Okay, now I'm using the top of the Real Techniques Beauty Sponge. This one left more powder on the face and not the sponge, whereas this side made it look more smoother, possibly because this one is a fatter sponge, but I feel like it didn't bake as well under the eye. So what I like doing after baking is I wipe it away with this big fluffy brush, but I use whatever product was left on my face that got on the brush to set the rest of my face. But all in all, I would have to say that my face on both sides looked the same until you go super close inspecting it step by step. But as a recap, I would have to say that the Beauty Blender did a better job at pressing it into the skin and making the foundation and the concealer look a lot more natural. Whereas this guy still did a super good job at blending out everything, but when it got into the little creases and under the eye, the Beauty Blender does kind of do a little better job at getting in those little fine areas, probably because of the rounded edge and the sharper point at the top. This guy is a lot more thicker and rounded at the point, and he has that flat edge, which I like for blending out the full face, but then blending out smaller areas, I like using the Beauty Blender. Now for like texture, washing, stuff like that, I find that these sponges are very similar in the squishiness and the feeling of them. The Beauty Blender is a little bit more squishier than the Real Techniques one, but they are both very soft and not as hard and dense as some other beauty sponges out there. The first time I got the Real Techniques one and washed it, I think I was a little bit too rough. I ended up not ripping it, but making little like gashes like this in this one after like the very first wash. Like there are certain spots that are starting to lift now. I think because it is a little bit more cheaper, it can get damaged maybe a little bit quicker. This one, never got damaged as I was washing it and wringing it out, stuff like that. I don't even know how I like made this slip, probably because I was pressing my nails in a little bit too hard, but they're both pretty delicate, so just be careful. Pore wise in the sponge, it almost looks like the Beauty Blender has bigger pores, but they both look like they sucked up the same amount of foundation and powder. When washing it, the Beauty Blender does bleed, probably just because of the color it is. Pink, red tones tend to bleed a little bit more, whereas this orange one, it's never bled, ever. Honestly, on the face wise, I think the Beauty Blender does a better job at blending out and making your makeup look more flawless. The Real Techniques is a very close match, so if you are wanting to save your money, I would say go with the Real Techniques one. It still does a really good job, not as good as the Beauty Blender, but for something that you have to replace over and over, this pack of 4 is almost the same price as this Beauty Blender. So I don't know, all depends on what you want to do. I don't know, they all have their pros and their cons, so do with what you will. Yeah, I'm going to finish the rest of my face and I'll see you guys in the outro. I hope this video helped you guys decide if you're debating to buy the Beauty Blender or if you're like, yeah, you know what, it's too overrated, stuff like that. I mean, both are awesome sponges. This one, definitely a lot more expensive, but does a really good job at making the face look a lot more natural and blended, whereas this guy still did a really good job at blending, but the places like under the eye, in the nose crease, those areas looked a lot more caked on and not so much blended. Both very different, but still similar in some aspects. I don't know, both sponges did a really good job. Definitely a lot more expensive than the other, but definitely a very good dupe for the Beauty Blender. If you guys have the money, I would recommend just trying it out just to kind of see what the hype is about. Makeup is definitely individualized. If for something that might work for me, may not work for you, so just try them out. I decided to put on my glasses because I was tired of squinting into the viewfinder to see if I was even in focus, but that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Okay, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Ooh, use Maybelline's, back out. Matte and the Maybelline for foundation. Oh my god, they're gonna know I messed up on that. I do find that it gives